So you graduate there, and obviously let's fast forward to the draft process. What did you have an agent? I mean, how does where in the lineage of this thing do you acquire representation, or are you doing that now, or is that something that you did like as a senior at Oregon State? When do you have to start going through that process and figuring out, all right, how am I going to do this? How am I going to transition from Oregon State player to a pro player?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd be lying to you if I told you I understood how it worked prior. I just was kind of floating around and trying to figure out and learn as I went through it, just because there's really no one in my family who's been through this process. So I kind of
Sure.
had everything on my own. But really, it was throughout the course of the season where agents would try to reach out to me and talk to me, and they throw their pitches and stuff like that. But I put all of that off until after the regular season, just so I could focus on football and spend time and allocate my time towards football. But after the season, like after that Oregon game, we had like a few weeks off and stuff like that. That's when I started to talk to agents and go through a selection process. And so pretty much by the time we played our bowl game, I already knew who I was going to sign with. And then after the game, you signed with them.
As far as what teams said to you in the process, did you go to the combine?
I did not.
You didn't get invited to the combine. So what were you hearing feedback either through your agent or from teams directly about, because I would imagine there's probably with a player like yourself, for people who don't know, Jack won the Paul Hornung Award, which is the versatility award in college football. You were like the most versatile guy in college football. And I would imagine there'd be a lot of teams that would want to talk to you about your kind of mindset, about playing different positions and where you felt you could contribute. And then, of course, you get that feedback from them of where they feel like you're best suited as a pro. What were those dialogues like with the teams?
Most of the teams saw me adding value to the offensive side of the ball, but there were a few who brought up the defensive side of the ball. And I never really had any crazy experiences with the draft process. It's all a lot of the same stuff where it's, I'd meet with a guy, talk to them, like, yeah, you are who I thought you were. And I was like, okay, sweet. And we just kind of have a normal conversation. And then I just go about my day. It wasn't really any of this, put the light over your head, go into a room and, let's interrogate this guy. I never really had that. So in terms of that, is pretty, I guess I was a little bit surprised because you'd always hear these crazy stories about people asking crazy questions. I never really had that. I didn't get that experience at all.
Well, that's good because some of those questions are just some of those questions, and you've seen them and I've seen them. They're just ridiculous. Some of them are insulting. A lot of them are intrusive. And if you can, I think the NFL is kind of trying to get away from that and try to treat the players a little bit better and a little bit more sensitively, I think, than they have maybe in the past. That's just the feeling I get.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest motive for those questions is really just to see how the player's going to react and just,
right.
I don't know, to like see what kind of person they are in certain circumstances. So, I mean, I kind of understand the reasoning for it, but then again, there's the flip side. It's like it's not really necessary.
All right, let's go back to the draft. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday event, and you knew you weren't going in round one. You may have known that you weren't going in the second or third round. So maybe Saturday was your focus. But how did you spend those days? Did you have the same plan all 3 days? Different plans for the 3 days? Where were you during the draft?
So I was at my dad's house up in Paulsbo, and they always feed me good. My stepmom's a great cook, so we're having good meals Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily recommend this to other people, but I was just spending my time pretty much staring at the TV screen, and especially Saturday, all day Saturday, I was just sitting there glued watching, seeing everything like kind of go down. And then, yeah.
Who were the teams on Saturday that when they were on the clock, you're like, hey, everybody get in here. This might be it. I mean, were there teams, were the Niners one of them? I mean, who was showing interest in you in the draft lead up that you thought, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to get drafted, but this team may take me?
So prior to the draft, what I did with the agent is we made a top 5 list just for in case free agency happened and stuff like that. So really, I mean, the teams involved before the draft was Green Bay, Dallas, Denver, and San Francisco, and then a little bit of the Raiders. So those were pretty much the teams in my top 5 order. And I knew the 49ers were interested. I was in contact with the running back coach for a few weeks prior to the draft. And so I was like, okay, well, we just have to see how the draft kind of plays out, because that order can shift based on the people they get and things like that. So yeah, I mean, throughout the draft, I was eyeing those 5 teams.
So the draft ends, and take us through the process. I mean, is it all of a sudden the draft ends, the phone starts ringing? Was it the middle of the 7th round? Teams start kind of scouting out there who could be now available, and how tell us that, or were you not involved in that process and that was all your agent?
Oh no, I was heavily involved with it, because even in the 6th round, 5th round, teams would call me and I'd be talking to teams, and they'd either be asking information about who I've talked to and things like that, or let's see, or pretty much making a pitch for the free agency. So that was going on in the 7th round. So once the 7th round hit, I mean, everything was just hectic. It was phone call after phone call. And then when the draft ends, it's like, okay, this team made an offer, this team made an offer. And then it's just trying to figure it out and sort it out. So yeah, it was a pretty hectic 30 minutes after, but it's a pretty quick turnaround once the draft ends, because after 30 minutes, you pretty much know where you're going.
Give me the Niners pitch. What they got on the who was it that got on the horn with you, or was it with your agent?
Well, it's multiple people, because I talked with their special teams coordinator, the running back coach,
Schneider, yep.
Coach Shanahan,
Bobby T, right? Bobby T, yep.
Yep, and then Shanahan towards the end of it. So, and then ultimately, when I started my agent, I was like, I mean, they're the ones really pushing for you, and I knew, I was like, okay, well, if I went there, that's a really good fit, good team, good organization, so I'd have absolutely no issue going to the 49ers, and I knew that prior to the draft. So, I mean, they made their pitch, then they threw out the offer, and I was giving myself a little bit of time to sit there and think about it, like 10, 15 minutes, but I knew I couldn't wait forever. And then after 10, 15 minutes, then I was like, yep, let's do it.
What was there a phrase or a sentence or something, an influential part of that made you kind of, because I mean, all these teams probably have really credible people that are saying some great things about you. Jack, man, we really see you as a key guy. Did anybody say anything in that kind of brief recruiting phone process that kind of made you go, hey, I like that. I like what I heard there. Or maybe even a conversation with Shanahan. What did Kyle say to you?
God, I don't even remember. It was
it was a whirlwind.
Like, hey, it's like, we value you, we want you here and stuff like that. But I mean, really the biggest thing I look at is just the fit and
right.
So seeing the 49ers, the fit, how they use the fullback, I believe my best ability in utilizing my talents to the highest potential is being able to do a bunch of different things. And you see that with Juszczyk all the time. They do a bunch of different things with him. So being able to learn from him and how successful he's been in the league, and being able to take those things and also apply that to my game is really the biggest selling point for me to go to the 49ers.